If you don't have the credentials to back it up, you don't have the experience, you shouldn't be talking about the matter, right?
Hmm.
So anyone who doesn't have the education, I, you know, I wouldn't put my full trust in them. One day you should be eating eggs. One day you shouldn't be eating eggs. One day milk's good for you. One day milk's the devil. I can't keep up. We profit off of people being sick in our country. I think, yes, globally there's room for advancements in healthcare systems. However, as developed of a country we are, it doesn't match up. Why do we profit off of sick people?
Hi, everyone. Welcome back to Rabinsky's Yet to Be Titled podcast. Maybe we'll just call it Yet to Be Titled. That has a ring to it. I have a very special guest for you this evening. We're going to discuss a wide range of topics from personal health, anything health and fitness related. This is a very important conversation. It's getting more and more important by the day with these times that we're living in. It's just something very important to pay attention to, and I thought the best person I could think of to speak to about this is my guest tonight. Without further ado, Ilona Gelyana, welcome to the show. If you wouldn't mind, give us a short intro of who you are, what you do. Yeah, go ahead.
Well, thanks for having me. I feel so honored to be here.
Thank you for coming on.
Yeah, am I allowed to say that I'm your sister-in-law?
Yes, of course. Yes. I just don't want to keep saying that I'm taking full advantage of my awesome family members, but it just so happens that everyone in my family is a genius. So here we are.
Hey, I'll take it. No, I really appreciate you having me on here. I'm excited. Can't say I've done this before, but yes, my name is Ilona. Little quick background. I suppose you thought I'd be a good person to be on here because I guess I've studied a thing or two regarding health. My undergraduate, I went to UC Santa Barbara and I studied bioanthropology over there. I did their exercise and sports studies program. So, on top of my bachelor's, I got that whole health coach, personal training certificate spiel. I went on to get my master's in public health with an emphasis in health education and health promotion. So, I guess you can say I'm passionate about health. But yeah, I think I feel like I should preface my answers with a blanket statement of, I have a multifaceted approach to health. I look at it from like an evolutionary standpoint. I look at it from a sports medicine standpoint, a nutritional one, public health prevention, etc. Like I think about all those things before I answer
Perfect. That's
questions. So I
exactly
hope
what
that's
I
okay.
want. So
Okay.
thank you for speaking to me.
Yeah.
I'm gonna do my best to not make this a free consultation for myself. But my current state of health is very similar to a large percentage of our population, especially men my age, in the mid 30s. The health and fitness movement started obviously way, way before the internet, the advent of internet. But it was something really great at first. It started to pick up a lot of toxic traits with the internet, social media, and all that stuff. It quickly turned into a way for others, people who are trying to become healthy, to feel like they're not doing so well. They're not able to achieve these goals that they're seeing on the internet. It started to make them feel inadequate, or that the attainment of these goals is just completely impossible. Okay, so let's just get right into it. I consider you an expert on the subject. So, as an expert, what do you think of the current state of health of our population in the United States?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think that over the years, I think it's been about 60 plus years where I've checked out data. And again, I am not reading the, you know, the matter on an everyday basis as I was in grad school and post grad. However, I do know enough and I am caught up enough to understand that as a general population in the United States of America, our life expectancy has increased. So males, females are expected to live a little bit longer than before, which ironically, I mean, you'd think that sounds great, but when you look at people's quality of life, it doesn't necessarily match that data.
Right.
So if you're asking me subjectively, I think that our health is declining when it comes to mental health, physical health, all of the above.
Mm-hmm.
There's a little room for improvement. Yeah.
Before we get into the precise details and the nitty gritty, can you identify a single solitary reason or just like one root cause in a short sentence, or can you identify one thing that's causing this decline?
One sentence, huh? So the first thing that comes to mind is the fact that we profit off of people being sick in our
Hmm.
country. I think, yes, globally there's room for advancements in healthcare systems. However, as developed of a country we are, it doesn't match up. Why do we profit off of sick people? Why do we give out medication before we try to prevent them having to show up in the first place? Why do we have the band-aid approach? That's about 5 sentences or more. I'm sorry.
No problem. That's what I want. But I am living proof of this. I just did this was something I was gonna go through later on, but I just did a blood test, and my doctor, first thing he wanted to do, I had a little bit of high cholesterol. First thing he wanted to do was meds. Not change your diet. Let's do, 3 months, 6 months from now, do another blood test, see how it is. If you cut all this dairy that you're consuming, right? So,
Hmm.
yes, I am living proof of this.
Yeah.
Uh, Before we get into that, though, how much do you attribute to the social media standards? How much of it? I mean, we just talked about like the big pharma, but how much of this is social media in general?
A good chunk of it. I genuinely feel bad for not just my generation, but the generations to follow. When I grew up, I had this natural passion for health and wellness, which is why I got into sports. It's why I got into what I studied. And I didn't have social media to sit there and say, oh, wow, this girl looks perfect. This girl does this workout. Should I copy her? This girl's eating this on a day to day. Should I do that? There's just it's almost turned me off from the fitness industry, being someone who's actually credentialed and educated and certified. There's too many people nowadays with social media claiming that they know it all when they genuinely don't. And it's fake news. It's actually fake news. They're spreading misinformation. It's such a trigger to me. So before I go on an actual rant, to answer your question, social media is a huge, huge component, like as to why there are so many people that are confused. I don't blame them. If I wasn't educated, I wouldn't know what to believe nowadays. Anyone's calling themselves a professional.
I agree. And I myself, my standards are so out of whack. I look up to like Sebum and like Ronnie Coleman, and they're like complete like out of my league. But I'm just like, yeah, I could do that.
Just
No
like
steroids for
X
me.
amount of times, yeah, Olympian champions,
Yeah,
no
it's
big deal
I
on
can get
performance
this done. Maybe
enhancers.
3 months.
Yeah.
Staying on the same topic with the internet, I've been focusing a lot more on how I look because I'm trying to do this content creation thing,
Yeah.
and also because my health needs to be a priority because I'm becoming a dad. I want to see my kids. I want to see my grandkids. All that stuff. So. My question was originally, is there a red flag I should look for uh, within myself where it's becoming a toxic thing, where I'm trying to achieve goals that are just not achievable in my state? But I'm going to change that to what you said. Is there a red flag I can just spot out someone who's pumping out just fake stuff, well, what am I looking for here? Because they're so good at, advertising what they're selling. They're just these snake oil salesmen. Is there something I can look for?
Sure. So there are obvious layers to this all, but to keep it short and sweet, I think it's so important to try to filter out those who are not genuine with their approach. First off, for me, and I am absolutely biased when it comes to this, but it's because I've put in the work myself.
Mm-hmm.
If you don't have the credentials to back it up, you don't have the experience, you shouldn't be talking about the matter, right?
Mm-hmm.
So anyone who doesn't have the education, I I wouldn't put my full trust in them. And even education, yeah, sure, you can read all the books you want in life, but put it to the test. I thought I knew a decent amount about training, and then when I finally built my clientele and I saw that on a day-to-day basis and I experimented with my clients and I got more confidence in that, that is when I was like, all right, I know what the hell I'm doing.
Mm-hmm.
So to answer your question, are these people just influencers who look really good and get sponsored, magically and just get a following? Like, is it a girl that has a really nice body and a nice face at the same time and gets sponsored by some company and she's telling people how to work out? Or does she genuinely have the education and the experience to back it up? So I think you have to do your due diligence and research at least the person that you're
Mm-hmm.
following and figure out, okay, do they have the credentials and does this make sense? Are they just trying to profit off of me using their code for 10% off or whatever?
Yeah, you're absolutely right because a lot of the times it's so attractive, the offer that they're putting on the table. It's like,
Yep.
oh, in 6 weeks you're gonna go from having the largest gut of all time to six-pack abs. Just attach these electrodes to your abs, blah blah blah. It's like, oh, I mean, why isn't everyone doing this? And they just rope you in, and it's a slippery slope. Uh, Other than content creation, like I just mentioned, I want to work on my own personal health, and I have a lot of like genetic, hereditary stuff that I need to deal with, like hypertension at age 35, and I need to be hyper vigilant about being pre-diabetic at my age with my weight, high cholesterol, things of that sort. So I'm gonna just throw out some stats at you right now.
Sure.
So let me see where I'm at. Okay, with quick Google search, I learned that 31.2% of males 18 to 39 have hypertension. 37.4 percent of men and 29.2% of women are pre-diabetic. I mean, what is going on? I say all of this to ask, is this all bad diet, lack of discipline, unrealistic standards? Are we just, like you said earlier, are these meds that they're just throwing at people before? What is going on here?
Sure. Well, those are alarming. For sure, they're alarming. For my graduate study, I actually worked alongside a pediatrician in Santa Barbara, and we studied the community for X amount of time, and our focus was obesity within children.
Mm-hmm.
And if the stats that you just spit out at me were alarming, I cannot even begin to tell you how sad these stats were that I was, gathering the qualitative and quantitative data for. Anywho, um, to answer your question, there are so many different things that go into play, so many different factors when it comes to chronic disease. So things like hypertension that you mentioned, diabetes, all of those things, they're chronic disease, right?
Mm-hmm.
They are not going to come and go. They're going to last and they're going to stay unless you do something about it and really work hard and get that out of you know, out of your life.
Mm-hmm.
Genetics certainly play a role. However, it's not the leading star in the play. You have control over your own body and how your body is going to react to certain things around your environment. So the common factors that all basically, if you research how to prevent this chronic disease, how to prevent this chronic disease, there are commonalities. What are those commonalities? Eat healthy, exercise X amount of times a week, limit stress, don't smoke, limit excessive drinking. It's those things that all contribute to chronic disease. So I don't think there's like one magic answer for you. I think it's the lack of focus that our country has on health education
Hmm.
and health prevention that has gotten us to where we're at. It's the lack of mandates that we have in schools. Like, no one is being educated on nutrition, on health prevention, and whatnot, you know? A lot of schools have even taken out PE at this point.
Yeah.
So I think it's just a lack of awareness that our general population has, not to their own fault. It's kind of like a default. Like, our country is not modeling what they should be when it comes to health prevention. So that's why we all easily end up where we're at with those stats.
Yeah. And
Did
I'm
I
just
even
gonna
answer your question?
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm just gonna ask you to disregard the bourbon and my cigar humidor.
Hey, I said
'Cause-
moderation, didn't I? Just
yeah.
limit excessiveness. Everything in moderation.
And you're so right about the PE. I mean, I can think back to the early 2000s when I was in high school, junior high, stuff like that.
Yeah.
PE was basically just keeping the kids busy.
Hmm.
Throwing a few soccer balls, basketballs, jump in the gym.
Yeah.
Just, you guys beat the crap out of each other until the bell rings, basically. There was
Hmm.
no building, unless you were in team sports, any kind of like specialized groups like that. There
Hmm.
was no discipline. So just staying on the discipline topic there, I'm an expert on lack thereof. So when it comes to physical health, eating, I struggle really hard with staying disciplined when it comes to exercise. I've been doing a lot better with my eating lately because of this giant red flag when I did my blood test. Um, I mean, I can write a book about all the excuses that I have, kids, life, work, stuff like that. But there's a million people that are doing way more with, a lot more that they're a lot more busy than I am. So, to me, they're just excuses. Um, Mike Tyson said that discipline is doing something you hate, but doing it like you love it. And I love that. I'm paraphrasing, but I love that.
Yeah.
What can someone like me who struggles with discipline so much, especially when I can excuse it and I can justify it? Oh, the kids are crying, or, whatever. I have work or I have to prep for this, that. What can someone like me do to just build this discipline? I mean, it's not going to happen overnight or in a week. What can I do?
Yeah. Well, first off, I love that you're aware of your excuses because not a lot of people are. Lucky for you, you're not alone. Majority of the population struggles with discipline.
Right.
It's a very, very common thing with my clients. It was a main underlying theme, right? They didn't have that internal motivation. They're like, how do I find the drive to do this? How do I, wake up wanting to do this when I have so much on my plate already? All right, well, you're not alone. So you have to take a step back and you need to do a little self-evaluation and figure out what your goals are. What are you willing to sacrifice to get to those goals? What
Hmm.
are you willing to implement in your life to get to those goals? And how much do you give a damn about it? Because if you don't, you're not going to make it happen.
I agree.
You can tell, and you can force an addict to go to rehab, but they can check themselves out, right? If they don't
For
want to
sure.
stay there. So you're going to have to find an internal motivator and an internal motivation to get you to work out when you don't feel like working out, to get you to eat right when you don't feel like it. So I wish I had a magic pill to give you, but there isn't one.
Hmm.
And I think that that's where kind of the mental health comes in, and you have to check in with yourself and really like ask yourself, okay, how much do I value myself? How much do I think my self-worth is applicable here? You
Hmm.
know? How, because this is so cliche, but it's like my thing. Health is wealth. It's the only thing that we can really leave with, right? Or our quality of life in general.
Definitely.
It's our health. It's the most important thing. So I think that everyone needs to really ask themselves what they think it'll take, because I don't have someone, on my butt about waking up at 3:30 in the morning to work out before work. I don't have someone forcing me to prep meals when I feel like prepping my meals.
Straight discipline.
It's just, yeah, I've built it over time. You can't buy it. You can't, you're not, you just, you have to work for it.
And what you said earlier is really important. You said, I wish I had a magic pill to give you. And that's where those snake oil salesmen come in. That's what they're selling. They're selling a shortcut. They're
Yep.
like, you don't have to wake up in the morning. You don't have to go work out X amount of days a week. Here, just take this, eat this, do this, wear this.
Yeah.
And yeah, what you said there was really important. Uh, Staying on discipline. Healthy eating, like I said, it is very difficult for me. Like I said earlier as well, uh, I when I took the blood culture test, my cholesterol was kind of dangerously high. Not kind of, but it was dangerously high for someone my age and my height and weight and all that stuff.
Mhm.
Again, excuse. It's very difficult for me, for someone in my position, to stay on top of that, to stay on top of uh, healthy eating. For example, it is very difficult to let's say you haven't made anything for dinner tonight, and it is very difficult to find a healthy choice on DoorDash or Uber Eats or whatever, right?
Sure.
If I want to order Taco Bell, it's like literally 10 minutes after I hit order. It's 10 minutes away. It's in front of my house. It is
Yeah.
so easy to slip. What's the best way to ease into kind of a structured diet plan? Delivery service, meal prep. There's like, these things being advertised like Hello Fresh,
Mhm.
or there's, I mean, a ton. There's a ton. And what's the best way for me to ease into it, or even just get started to fill these holes where I don't have a meal set up for myself, where it's so easy to hit that DoorDash button? What's the
Mhm.
best way for me to get into it?
Yeah, I love that you use the word ease. I love that you said ease into it, because that is what you should do. Majority of the population will have to ease into change, right? And not just go cold turkey or just make some dramatic lifestyle change overnight and expect change.
Hmm.
With something as important as diet, I think you need to figure out something that's sustainable for you. So, what is Robin going to be able to do long term? So, I
Yeah.
don't even like to use the word diet. You can use the word plan, but I don't like to use the word diet, because diet is a trend, and diet is going to come and go, and you're going to yo yo, and you think of it as a temporary fix. So, I challenge you to change that mindset, and instead of even saying the words out loud of diet plan, lifestyle change, right?
Hmm.
How are you going to lead a healthy lifestyle when it comes to your meals? How are you going to make healthier choices each time? So, okay, let's ease into it. If you're using DoorDash or Uber Eats, fine, I get it. It's quick, it's easy. They literally shows up at your door within 15 minutes, right? What are your options on there? What solid protein, whole food protein can you get on there? If they're all fast food, you're screwed. You shouldn't use that. If you are, you know, lucky enough to live in an environment where you actually have healthy options, if you're going to eat out, then okay, check them out. What meal can you get where it's majority of it is protein, and then you have a little bit of your carbs and fats as well?
Hmm.
If that's not the case, all right. If you're gonna spend that money on a weekly basis on delivery, maybe check out HelloFresh, or, they have a million different companies like that now,
Yeah.
right? You have options. In this day and age, you have options, but you need to figure out what's going to be sustainable for you.
I
Right.
mean, you're so right. And like I said, I've cut out dairy, and that cut like 99% of the stuff I can order. It's so crazy how much cheese I consumed. Everything has got like, and now that I'm label reading and my amazing wife, your sister, who's going shopping at Sprouts for me now. She's
Love
checking
that.
out the labels, and it's we're keeping each other accountable now. It's so great. It was really a wake up call for me. So
Hmm.
you're absolutely right. It is something to ease into. It's very difficult if you're in a place where all you have is just fast food and not healthy choices. These smaller towns, they're usually not lucky enough, or they don't have these healthier choices.
Right.
Solid discipline, but I want to talk about discipline in a different way now. How important is mental health when it comes to your physical health? What is your state of mind, or how much does your state of mind attribute to your physical health?
Sure. Um, I would say it's equally as important. I mean, your mental health is everything. I can speak from personal experience where I was in the best shape of my life. I'm still a spring chicken, I like to say. Haven't hit 30 quite yet. However, when I look back, physique wise, like I was basically ready to step on a stage and do a show kind of deal. Is at the same time, sure, I was physically where I wanted to be and more, but mentally, I was in a terrible place. It
Mm-hmm.
just didn't match up. And so, as great as everyone thought and as ready as they thought I was to hop on stage and do a show and whatever, I still looked at myself and wasn't happy. I still was just so hard on myself. And, the mental aspect and component of it all is so important. I think you need to, if you're going to create goals, I think you should try to create physical and mental health goals at the same time so they can complement each other and you can make sure that you're balanced body wise.
Yeah, you're definitely right about that. I can attest to that 100%. And, solid discipline is definitely a sign of at least a partly healthy mindset in order to, wake up in the morning and not feel like, I'll just stay in bed for the rest of the day, things
Right.
like that.
Hmm.
I'm gonna, time to spit more stats at you regarding mental health.
Good. I love it.
One in five adults in the US live with some kind of mental illness. Crazy numbers, right? Another crazy statistic is mental illness in adults from 35 to 44 went from 31% in 2019 to 45 in 2023. Even scarier still, that number jumps up to 50% in adults 18 to 34. That's crazy. And that's 2023 also. Those
Hmm.
are really unsettling. What's changing? What's happening? Other than, I mean, we know that a pandemic happened, but what's really changing? What's the underlying thing? What's going on?
Yeah, that's something where it's clear with COVID, with the shutdowns, with the isolation. That's something where we can't ignore that,
Mm,
right? That has severely impacted us for the foreseeable future when it comes to mental health. So, on top of all of that isolation and just introduction of new disease and
hmm
mental illness, um, I think social media plays into it as well. I think the world that we live in now, it's just so easy to compare your life, yourself, your quality of life to what seems to be so picture perfect online. And, you know, that age group that you spoke of, that age group is online. That age group is on Instagram, on Facebook, on I don't even know other social media
hmm
platforms, TikTok, whatever.
Threads.
Yeah, I can't keep up, man. But that is the age that is on those sites on a daily, constantly comparing their lives to fake, pretty things out there.
Right.
filtered things. So, of course, that's going to contribute to our mental health on top of living sedentary lifestyles and, dealing with the shitty food that
Mm-hmm.
we have, all the options. Again, and
Absolutely.
sorry, I'll stop on my rant, but
No, keep going. This
there's
is
a
great.
lot that goes into it for
Yeah,
sure.
yeah. I mean, yeah, like you mentioned, social media and now VR. People are gonna have that headset on, and
I
it
keep
is
up.
total isolation. You don't even need a pandemic, and people aren't gonna want to leave at this point. They're just getting that what is it? Is it serotonin?
Yeah, the hits of dopamine and serotonin.
Dopamine. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, and even evolutionarily, like we as human beings, we need connection, we need relationships
For
with
sure.
other human beings to thrive and to be happy. You
Social
can,
creatures.
yes, of course. We like back to like my anthro background, we've, developed social refrigerators like our hunter-gatherer ancestors.
Mm,
They would go out and hunt for big game, and the whole like society was, okay, this week we're gonna get this kill and we're gonna share it with you, and you're gonna do the next for us next week or whenever you get that next kill. So they relied on being social with one another. Like it's
right.
in our ancestry.
Yeah.
So the
I
fact
mean,
that there's so many isolating factors nowadays, it's scary.
it is. It is absolutely crazy. So we're
Yeah.
just talking about all this futuristic stuff.
Hmm.
Well, before I move on, you've seen these AI generated abs and muscles, right?
I
I mean,
haven't. No.
yeah. So like, there's a ton of apps now. So I'm just like, hey, should I just stop working out and like have AI generated? It's crazy. I mean, people are looking at that and they're like, well, I'm never gonna achieve that. That's perfect physique right there.
Hmm.
So let's contrast that with an old school question.
Okay.
Is there what do we still need to change that's in our old school mindset as millennials? And we're in a weird space. We're those transitory. We're that transitory generation. We're the in-betweeners.
Hmm.
We kind of we understand our parents, Gen Xers, Boomers, but we lived in the advent of the internet and all these things developing, and we're still not like, oh, you crazy kids. Like, we're in it. We're
Yeah.
those in-betweeners that saw two different worlds.
Right.
Is there a common misconception or like something that's old school, that's generally toxic, excuse me, that we need to get rid of? Is there something that needs to go?
Oof. So many ways we can go about this one. So, to me, what I think is important, which I may be thinking of this a little backwards and a little reverse of what you're asking me. So, in my mind, I'm thinking, okay, what does our current society need to change?
Take it however you want to take it.
No, no,
Take
no. I
it.
want you to ask. Okay, ask me one more time because I want to make sure I'm understanding clearly.
What's something that we're carrying over? So there's all these changes happening, all these technological changes happening. What are we carrying as baggage? What are we still carrying like a corpse, on our
Okay,
back
sure.
that we need to just shed from our lives?
Okay. When I think of exercising, I think there's a lot of myths that need to be busted pretty much in the realm of exercise as far as weight training goes. I love my boy Arnold. He's changed our world. He's done some great stuff, but he's also created this, mindset of, okay, bodybuilding or just like weightlifting in general is
Right.
only for jacked men. And if you pick up weights, you're going to get like absolutely shredded or super jacked right off the bat. So, like, even I think females have been turned off by it and they think, oh, I don't want to touch weights. I'm going to get big, quote
Uh-huh.
unquote. Right. So, that is something that in my training career, I was just constantly trying to combat and, tell folks, not just females in general, you're not going to become Arnold overnight. I know a lot of people would like to, but I'm sorry, that's not going to happen. You have to be eating an insane surplus. You have to have some actual enhancers. You need to be lifting super heavy. There's so many things to get to that, genetics, so many things. If you implement weight training in your workout routine, it's only going to benefit you in so many ways where you're not going to get big. You're actually going to put on muscle mass. Lean muscle mass actually burns fat. It literally supports your bones, so you will get stronger. You'll prevent muscular imbalances. You'll
Hmm.
prevent falls when you get older, like injuries, just so many things that are beneficial with weight training. I think we could we
I
could work
can,
on that a little bit.
yeah, absolutely. I can remember after high school, I think I was like 19 or 20 years old. I went to InShape
Hmm.
and I spoke to one of the trainers there and he's like, "Well, do you want to get big or do you want to just lose weight? Because if you want to just lose weight, we'll do cardio, we'll just skip the weight room." I was like, "Oh, I didn't know anything." What you just said literally happened to me. So you're absolutely right. But I asked you a lot of questions that I wanted some like absolute answers from, you know?
Hmm.
If there was a cut and dry way of doing this, everyone would be healthy, everyone would be in shape, all of that. How important are these small incremental changes that you've been talking about? Lifestyle changes, mental health, things to do, go outside, get some sun. How important are these things to this overall image that we're all trying to create?
Crucial.
Yeah.
It's not about the drastic change, the drama. It's not about that kind of stuff. It's about what small things can I do on a day-to-day basis that are going to contribute to my longevity, right? So, have you heard of blue zones?
No.
So, a part of my grad thesis also, I worked with a doctor in Loma Linda, and Loma Linda is actually one of 5 blue zones in the world. So, blue zones are zones in the world that have basically the highest population of folks that live to at least 100. And
Whoa.
and so like the longest living people, and so we researched them and researched their lives and figured out, okay, what the hell are they doing? Because they've cracked the code, right?
Right.
And it's so interesting because the you would think, okay, right, they eat healthy, they exercise, but on top of that, they have a day of rest. They focus on rest. They, you know, some of them are like religious, like there's like spirituality, just different things
Mm-hmm.
that it's nothing crazy big. It's just these little things that they do on a day-to-day basis that, you know, basically attribute to their longevity. So, sorry, I keep going on these tangents. To circle back to
Keep
your
going.
original, I told you there wouldn't be much focus with me.
That I love this.
To circle back to your initial question, I think that you have to start somewhere. And
Mm-hmm.
the most successful people that I know started small. They didn't get crazy with it. They found what works for them and they stuck to it. And that's what works for me too. I mean, speaking from my own experience, my clients, my friends, whoever I've worked with, if it's getting in 10,000 steps a day, getting in X amount of gallons of water a day, getting in sleep every single day, just making those little goals and then
Mm-hmm.
actually hitting them will get you a long way.
Is there a lot of those blue zones in California? Like, is there a state where it's like a lot?
No, so if I'm remembering correctly, and you might get backlash if I'm wrong on this, but I think I know them. It's Loma Linda. It's which is in California,
Yeah.
obviously. There's a city in Greece. There's a city in Costa Rica. There's a city in Japan. What's the fifth one?
I don't know why I thought there would be more.
No, well, as of as of what I know, and most recent, and now I'm gonna check my books after this, but I'm like 99.9% sure that there's
Right.
5 official blue zones in the world, which is
Whoa.
so cool because Loma Linda was like where I went to school for, my
That's
MPH.
crazy. That's awesome. I didn't even know about that. I need to
Yeah,
research that.
it's really interesting stuff.
Wow. Okay.
I
So
felt like a nerd.
that's awesome. I just want to shift to a different topic.
Sure.
Not only is your background in public health, health promotion, but you're currently working in the healthcare staffing industry. Does that give you a lot of time to speak with the industry professionals, doctors, nurses? Do you get a lot of face time in that way, or no?
Sure. I've worked with, the doctors, the nurses, and the actual staff.
Mm,
The role that I'm in now, I'm primarily speaking with the decision makers of those facilities. So I work with the deputy director of the public health department of the county. I work with the directors of the mental health programs of the county, directors of nursing, basically the people in charge of all of those programs and facilities.
Are they seeing are they seeing the same trends that like someone like me who's a casual in all this, a casual, are they seeing? I mean, I'm seeing a decline, and I don't even know anything about not a lot anyway about mental, physical health. Are they seeing? Are you seeing the same trends in that industry, in the healthcare industry?
Great question. So the pandemic, not to go back to it, but it changed our world just a bit, right? So the
100%.
pandemic, yeah, the pandemic really put, staffing agencies on the map. That's where our business blew up when other businesses were breaking down.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think that everyone was just so worried about getting staff in the doors to be able to put more band-aids on everyone.
Right.
And now everyone's kind of too worried on cutting costs because it was so damn expensive to do so.
Mm-hmm.
And we were not prepared because our fiscal budget, don't get me started on that, for our country, we were not prepared. And so now all of these professionals are basically just trying to clean up and you know, prioritize, okay, well, we have X amount of grants and X amount of funding for this behavioral program,
Okay.
but what can we do with this? Like everyone's really just looking out for themselves and
Mm-hmm.
trying to make sure that their ships don't burn, if that makes sense. To where they're not too worried about the industry in general.
Mm-hmm.
I'm the one that does the market research and, with my background and whatnot. So, yeah, it's unfortunate because the mental health crisis isn't going anywhere. As far as the hospitals and acute care go, it depends on your county. Your census could be super high in one area and then really low in the other. But
Mm-hmm.
the actual trends that we're seeing, like where the government is finally prioritizing funding for, they're funneling some money in for behavioral programs right now.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you for that.
Hmm.
What are okay? Now I'm gonna try to steal some of your secrets.
Do it.
This is where I'm gonna try to fish out exactly what I need to do to get better at this. I really want to, you know. What are some foundational routines or things that well for you that I can steal from you, that I can pick up?
Okay. And this is just in general, like you're not going to give me a specific goal in mind.
You know, anything regarding physical, mental health, what's something that you wouldn't be able to go without?
Ooh, okay.
You know, like what's
Sure.
one thing that is just no matter what you miss that day, workouts, let's say you miss a workout, let's say you miss reading a book, going
Mhm.
outside. What's one thing that you're just like, I'm doing this every single day?
Yeah. So for me, key key component of all of that is movement. I have to have my body move. Otherwise, I feel pain when I don't move. And that's just because my body's so used to it.
Mm-hmm.
So if I'm unable to get a workout in, which it doesn't happen every day. I mean, I work a corporate job now. I went from an extremely active lifestyle to I bought a treadmill walking pad for my desk. I have a stand-up desk. I'm trying to combat sitting all the time. Um, so I go for a walk every day. Like, thank God, I have a dog, so I have an excuse.
Mm-hmm.
But I go for a walk. Yes, I live in California, so the weather's great all the time. So some people can't do that, but
Mm-hmm.
trying to get some type of movement in every single day, even if it's for 20 minutes, just to go on a walk or, you know, stretch, whatever it may be, focus on your breathing, do a few little like yoga poses. That for me is huge. Um, on top of hydration and getting your steps in.
I agree. Yeah, I agree completely. When I'm on parental leave because I went and had another baby,
Yeah,
So
congratulations.
thank you. And now I really have to be mindful of my movement because it's declined so much. In my line of work, I was going, I was averaging 18, 19,000 steps a day. I would
Nice.
come home and I would feel so loose and so comfortable. Long day, 13-hour shifts. And I'd come home and I'd be bouncing off the walls with my son, with my little toddler. So, and then on my days off, I would be completely sedentary and I'd be like, why am I sore? Why are my legs and my hips, my thighs hurting?
Yeah.
Because I just wasn't getting the same amount of movement. And it's crazy that you say that because it's all making sense to me now. And I used to wonder why I'm so sore on my days off. I'm like, I'm not doing anything.
Yeah.
So, yeah. Speaking of what's working well for you, I'm I'm listening to all these different podcasts, trying to do my own thing, and I'm
Mhm.
hearing all these trends. Um, I hear so many people saying, well, you got to go for a vegetarian or vegan diet. And then I hear someone like Mr. Joe Rogan who's like, oh, carnivore diet, this, that. Are these just things that you subscribe to depending on your own moral justification? Or is there one that's just better than the other? What I'm saying is, are people just picking these? Let me rephrase that. Are you getting the same benefits from both, but just what works well for you? Or, is the carnivore diet better? Or is vegetarian better? Like, there's a lot of, speaking of Arnie, I think he switched it up, he
Yeah.
became vegetarian. So
Yep.
what do you think of all this? Vegetarian, carnivore, they're two extremes, both sides of the spectrum. What am I doing here? What am I listening to?
Absolutely. There's so much information out there. One day you should be eating eggs. One day you shouldn't be eating eggs. One day milk's good for you. One day milk's the devil.
Hmm.
I can't keep up. I have taken a decent amount of nutrition courses, bio nutrition courses, and whatnot. I am not a registered dietitian. I will say that. However, I know enough to understand that each and every single one of us are so complex
Hmm.
and we are built very differently. So I cannot prescribe a diet to you without actually testing everything out and letting, really diving in scientifically to figure out how does your body react to certain things? What are your inflammation responses to certain foods and whatnot? To generally answer your question, I mean, I was a pescatarian for 4 years. Moral, moral decision on my end. I took a class in college that really did it for me.
Okay, just for our audience, mainly for me, but can you explain what a pescatarian is exactly?
Yes, yes, I'm sorry. So a
I have no
pescatarian,
idea.
no worries. Hey, we learn something new every day. So a pescatarian only eats seafood. So I didn't eat any
Oh,
poultry, yeah, any like red meat, none of that.
whoa.
I was only eating seafood, primarily salmon and tuna. So
Okay.
yeah,
Wow.
yeah. So like no poultry, no red meats or anything of that
That's
sort.
interesting.
So I did that for 4 years, and that was my main source of protein. For me, I think the only thing that was significant about it was I was probably the leanest I've been in my life
Oh.
at the time, but I was also like extremely active, so a lot goes into it.
Right,
But
right.
I didn't feel any like crazy. health changes. Um, so I think everyone's so different, Robin. Like, it really depends on what your goals are, how your body responds. Like I said earlier, we all have inflammatory responses to foods, and it's a matter of trying to figure out, okay, how does my body respond to this? How does my body respond to this? Right? And you have to educate yourself and experiment enough to start intuitively understanding, I know how my body's going to react to that.
So
Like,
don't just go to one side of the spectrum because it works for Joe Rogan.
yeah, and you're welcome to. Don't get me wrong. You
Uh-huh.
can do whatever the heck you want to do. However, if you're going to do that, don't go 1 foot in, 1 foot out. You need to go for it and you need to try it for a long period of time and stick to it and see if that really is what you want to do and if it's, again, sustainable and if it works for you. But at the same time, make sure that your body's getting the nutrients it needs and the
Hmm.
fuel it needs with whatever trend that you choose to follow.
Okay. Well, I feel like this next question is going to be a lot more complex and fluid. Uh, the next question is, what about things like different kind of exercises? I've been doing, I don't know if you remember, but you gave me like this pack of bands of different not weight, but like, one of them's very hard, one of them's very firm, and then there's like
Oh, do you still
medium.
have those?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I've been using those to do workouts. I put on YouTube and I follow,
Love that.
I don't know who it is, but I use those to work
Yeah.
out. What about that kind of things? Am I, for someone like me, do I need to go into high intensity interval training, calisthenics? Is calisthenics or band workouts? Is that okay? Is it just based on what you want to achieve with your body, or does everyone need to lift heavy? What are we doing as far as working out?
Yeah, wonderful question there. And not to sound redundant, repetitive, but again, we're so complex and everyone's so different.
Mm-hmm.
So I would need for you to tell me what your goal is before I can answer that. If your goal is to strictly gain flexibility and fix a muscular imbalance, I could say that yes, that band work and whatnot can get it done for you. If you want to lose some lbs, you want to lose some weight and you want to do it not quickly, but ideally quickly,
Efficiently.
efficiently and
Yeah.
quickly. I'm not going to tell you to work with bands. Sure, bands will be implemented because we don't want to just, if you haven't lifted weights, we're not going to just throw you in, but we're going to do a, you know, multifaceted approach and a holistic approach that covers everything that we need
Mm-hmm.
as to where you're going to get the bands in there, you're going to get cardio, you're going to get weights, and we're going to attack from every corner we can to make sure that you hit that goal, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
It's very driven and dependent on the individual's SMART goal.
Yeah, I agree. I just have one more question, but I feel like we
Sure.
already touched on it. What's one thing I shouldn't go without in 2024? What's one thing I need to do every day? What do I need to do to, make all of this stick together? Mental health, physical health. Should I just delete all my social media? What do I need to do?
That's so funny. I am the queen of deleting my social media. I have like my deactivation stages where I'll like take a break. I literally just got it back today. I deactivated it like last week.
Oh, wow. I mean, it's
Yeah.
good, right?
But it helps. Yeah, I
Yeah.
get my mind off of things and then I'm fine. But anywho, one thing that you need to do every single day, is that what you asked?
Mm-hmm.
To better your health in general?
In general physical, mental health. What's one thing I should, I feel like you already answered this, but is there something else other than, keep it moving every day?
Okay. It's gonna sound so lame, but it's honestly so true. Get outside and get some sun every single day.
Mm-hmm.
If you have sun, because some places don't see
Yeah.
it too often, get outside and get some sun and try to get some steps in while you get the sun at the
Okay.
same time,
Wow.
because that'll help you mentally and physically.
I agree. I wish
Vitamins. Yeah.
I wish I lived near a forest so I could just, like go on hikes and like do all these things, I agree. I agree.
Yeah.
I really, really, really appreciate your time. This was completely enlightening for me. I didn't want to make it a free consultation, but I'm glad I did. Again, thank you so much. This was amazing. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, of course. Thanks for having me. And I do apologize if I went on a few tangents, and
The tangents is
I tried
where
not
where
to
the
bring up
genius comes out.
big pharma or public spending and whatnot.
We'll go into that hopefully in the next episode.
Thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
Of course, thank you.